Hello everybody, good morning. No, I guess it's afternoon. It's 1 o'clock p.m. Can we do a little sound check before we begin? I appreciate everybody coming through today so far. I usually don't stream on YouTube, but I needed to do something for a couple people. Thank you, Victor, who's also in math right now, ironically, watching a math stream. Today's stream, I don't know how long it'll be. Like I said, I will be covering some topics like what it was like to be a teacher, what it was like to be a teacher while wrestling, what do I think needs to change in education today because of what's different from when I was younger. I'll also be answering some questions that anybody has sent me or will be sending me throughout the stream, and like I said, I will be editing it later just to chop it up for smaller videos for people who are really in need of this. And then finally we'll talk about what I think are important topics in math. Now, it doesn't matter what subject or topic in math, but we're going to be talking about math today. Is weird. So if you're a math nerd like me, hey, get that calculator out. Psych! We don't need no calculator. Let's go. Victor says, time for class with Señor Dorado. No, not Señor. Maestro. Maestro Dorado. I'll also take profe, if you like that. I'll take that too. I should probably grab my mask. Where is my mask? Okay, hold on 1 second. We got less than 1 minute. Check my hair. $900, what's up? Welcome. Damn, I haven't streamed in a little bit. I've just been playing games like crazy, Victor. Ooh, I don't even know what that sound was like. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome. Welcome everybody. Good afternoon to the entire World Wrestling Federation. Welcome to the Lucha Lit Station, which I don't have the logo on the bottom. Probably should. I'll do it later. I'll add it later. My lip is still bruised from all the damage I've taken in my mouth the last like 3 weeks. I had a root canal yesterday. That's why I was not on Monday Night Raw. And I thought it would be a good idea to go to the gym right afterwards. It was not a good idea because my mouth was on fire. But today I feel better. Today I feel a little bit better. Those who don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, I had a match against Humberto where I gave him a move, an offensive move. And kind of backfired. Hit me in the mouth, busted my lip open, chipped my tooth. Chipped two teeth, and it was crazy. So I've been dealing with a little bit of mouth issues lately. My diet's been a little bit messed up because of it. Can't eat certain foods. We good though. Not his fault though. It's not his fault. Like I said, I was giving him the offensive move. while laughing. I should add that. I was laughing. Check out main event from 2 weeks ago. I think last week too, I also wrestled Angel Garza. You guys could check that out. What are we talking about today, guys? What's up? We talking some math. I'm gonna give you a little story how math and your boy Lince Dorado is connected, and then we're gonna be talking about some topics of education that's important to me, and we'll talk about it why in a second. I'll be answering some questions for anybody who has sent me some questions, math problems already. But if you know anybody who needs help, whether they're in kindergarten all the way up to high school, 12th grade, any kind of math, if they have a Thanksgiving, a Thanksgiving extra credit packet or a Thanksgiving packet online, even remedial math in college, I could do most math. I'm not gonna lie, I could do all the math. Let's not overwork my brain today. Why am I doing this video? I'm very passionate about 3 things. First and foremost, my family. Very passionate about my family. Everything I do is for my family. Everything I will be doing going forward is for my family. So that's first and foremost. Second, I love Lucha Libre. I love wrestling. I love pro wrestling. I love amateur wrestling. I love wrestling. But my third passion has always been education. I found that I loved education and Lucha Libre in the same year, 1994. I talked about it in my other video. You can check it out on my YouTube page. I talked about my story about The Undertaker and how he influenced me. The match between him and Yokozuna from the Royal Rumble 1994 casket match, in fact. How it inspired me to be a professional wrestler. Now, prior to that, I've always watched wrestling in the form of Lucha Libre, Puerto Rican wrestling, and even Japanese wrestling. I had the hookup. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I had the hookup. But to me, that was all sport. You watch Japanese wrestling, you watch Lucha Libre. There's not a lot of stories. So as a kid, you're not invested for the stories. You're more invested for the action, the athleticism, the wrestling. But then fast forward my entire life to 1994. And my uncle, who was taking me to school that day, came over. It was a Monday. In fact, it was a Monday. Yeah, it was a Monday. It was a Monday. And I believe at that time, pay-per-views were either Saturdays or Sundays. Maybe they were still Sundays. I'm not too sure. But anyway, like I said, I was watching wrestling. Lucha. Japanese wrestling. And, I'm grabbing my bag and he goes, wait. Before we go, you need to see this movie. That's what he said, movie. Because we had VHSs back then. The little box videos. So everything was a movie to us. He goes, you gotta watch this. And if you don't know what a VHS is, please Google it. Please YouTube it. It's a way to watch movies before DVDs. I can't believe I'm having this conversation. It's so weird. But anyway, there was 2 ways to fast forward. You could put it in, stop it, right? So it would be a blue screen and you could fast forward it. You won't see anything. And then you kind of have to guess where you're gonna stop. And or you could do what he did. You could just play it and then fast forward it, so you can kind of see everything in super fast motion, and then you can hear it go all kind of craziness. So at that time, my mind was blown the moment he popped in the VHS to the moment he stopped it again. And he goes, my dude, you have to watch this. And then proceeds to press play. Now, I didn't know what this was. I didn't know what I was watching. I just knew my brain had melted 1,000 times just from the fast forward. And my brain was about to explode when he pressed play. So when he pressed play, it showed the beginning of the Undertaker Yokozuna casket match from the 1994 Royal Rumble. And at that time, wrestling to me was just pinfall or submissions. But not this match. This match was straight, you gotta beat my dude and put him in the casket. Never seen that before in my life. Never. Amazing. I'm hooked. I'm instantly hooked. 1994, I think I was 6. Maybe 6 years old. Maybe 6. Let me see. Maybe turning 7. I was 6 though, because the Royal Rumble was in January. So I'm watching this match. It's a huge guy, Yokozuna sumo wrestler versus a dead man. Like, of course the dead man got to win, right? Nope. A lot of dudes come out, more characters come out, and the dead man is in the casket. You think it's done. It's not done. The casket starts to get rolled away. Then we see inside the casket. There's a camera inside the casket. Movie magic. Whoa, mind blown. He talks a little bit, and then his spirit goes away. This is my first introduction to wrestling. How can you not be hooked after that? That's all I'm saying. And that's all I'm saying. That same year, that's how wrestling is related here. That same year, like I said, 6 years old, probably in end of kindergarten, first grade, somewhere in there, and I become competitive. I believe it's first grade, honestly. I want to say first grade. Kindergarten, the only thing I remember in kindergarten was Miss Crispy. That was her name. My art teacher. Couldn't show you anything else. Miss Crispy showed me art. But I believe first grade is when I became super, super duper competitive for a couple of reasons. One, where I grew up, Camden, New Jersey. I am Puerto Rican. Doesn't mean all Puerto Ricans come from Puerto Rico. No, all right. This one comes from Camden, New Jersey. Not a very good neighborhood. Not a good neighborhood. But, you either leave there, you stay there, and you leave there in a body bag, or you die there, or you just get out. And I decided eventually to get out. But at that time, I noticed that education was my only way out. Why? Because the guy and the woman in front of me teaching me, a person that they didn't know, a kid that they didn't know, man, they showed me a lot of love. And they showed me how powerful education could be. So I remember first grade, Mr. Smith. I know it's a very generic name, but that dude was so kind to me. Later in life, I actually reconnected with him. But that same year, I had a guy named Twan. Y'all know, right? And then another girl who ended up being really cool friends of mine, my first crush. Her name was Sheena, and me. And we were so competitive when it came to just getting the best grades that we even sat at the same table, so that way we can compete with each other. And that was my first introduction to just education, not math yet. And I decided, you know what, like I wanted to be a pro wrestler ever since that VHS that I had saw from my uncle. But I also wanted to be a teacher, and at that time you just want to be everything, right? Not really knowing how it's going to work out, but powerful minds know that it will work out. So ever since then, first grade, I decided to dedicate myself to be the best student that I can be. I tried very hard to get all good grades. I had good grades all the way up to 10th grade until clashed heads with an English / reading teacher. And, I've always still been passionate about education. Once I graduated high school, now I had already been wrestling for about 2 years, whether it was training or actually doing shows. It was time to grow up, and it was time for me to decide, are you going to be committed to this wrestling thing, this lucha libre thing, or are you going to go to college? And in my mind, I said, you know what? Not even me can tell me what to do. I'm going to do both. So I decided to keep training, and I decided to keep going to college, and decided to keep doing shows. So that's what I did for about 4 years, from 2005 to 2010. I did take a semester off. In 2005, I started school 2010. And throughout that time, I had an incredible time training and wrestling while still getting a great education. Prior to being accepted to the school I went to, Rowan University, I had to take this test, the entry test, right? Everybody knows about it. You have to take entry tests to get into college, SATs, all that other stuff. And of course, in that time, my mindset was like, get the degree, get the piece of paper that says you did it, as your backup plan, right? It's okay to have a backup plan as long as you thought of it first, because it becomes plan B when plan A just sounds better. And it sounded better to be a professional wrestler, in my opinion. Just my thought. So yeah, I took that test, took my SATs, and then when it came time to say, hey, what do you want to go for? I looked my guidance counselor right in the face and said, I want to be an art teacher. And she laughed at me. I was like, yo, my art ain't bad. Why are you laughing at me? She basically gave me some real talk, and it went like this: understanding your environment, understanding what you want to go for, understand the demand. For example, in New Jersey, art teachers they ain't no art jobs. These are jobs that people keep forever until they retire. Like, it's a great job, may be fun for them, it may not even feel like a job for them. That's why these teachers keep these jobs for as long as they had. So they said, realistically, you're looking at 10-15 years before you can get a job. What? All right, what's my next best option, coach? Looked at some paperwork. Well, it looks here like you scored a perfect score on your SATs. Now, at that time, it was 1600, not 2400. Scored a perfect score on your SATs and pretty high on the entry exam. Why didn't you go for math? You said I scored a perfect score on my SATs on math and very high on my placement exam. And at that time, that math was easy for me. School was easy for me. I'm not going to lie. School was easy for me. Focus. I had nothing else I wanted to do. I couldn't go outside. There ain't nothing to do outside unless I want to get shot. There ain't no grass. It was all pavement, asphalt. There ain't none of that. So what do? You play games, you watch wrestling, and you study. That's it. In my life. Legos, clay, whatever. So that way when it comes time, high school, boom, you just banging out these classes. Boom. U.S. history, easy. U.S. government, easy. Algebra 1, easy. Geometry, easy. Calculus, easy. Trigonometry, easy. And you're not even thinking science, physics, anatomy, biology, all those things, psychology. And you're like not thinking that, man, this is hard, because it's not hard. I'm not saying because I'm smart. I'm just saying like I applied myself. I picked up the book. I'm reading things that I want to read. I'm engaging. I'm inspiring myself the same way those teachers inspired me to be a teacher, or the same way wrestling inspired me to be a wrestler. So you're saying I scored a perfect score on my SATs? I scored pretty high on my math entry exam? You're damn right. All right, let's do it. Now, at that time, and even now, anybody who wants to be an educator, here are the two biggest jobs always in demand when it comes to education. Ready? Math and science. Not gym teachers. No offense, I love gym teachers. Some of my best friends are gym teachers. But the same issue happens when it comes to art teachers. Those jobs are just too much fun. They become too easy, that they stick with it forever. Maybe they do a coaching job or here or that, but it's still one of those jobs. English. Everybody can read. Everybody loves reading. Except for students during school. I'm challenging educators. Ask your students, damn it, what they like to read. Give a survey in the beginning of the school year like I did. Everything. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite type of sneaker? What's your favorite type of book? What's your favorite place? Ask them what they like. Then modify how you do your education by picking topics, by picking materials, not topics, because we'll talk about topics in a second. We're picking materials that are interesting, that are captivating to students. Then you got history. I love history. I love ideas of dates, numbers, lessons from the past. I love all that. But unless you're going to politics, the most common question I'd always get, when am I ever going to use this? Unless you go to college. These are just things that, when it comes to education, passionate about. So ever since that day with that meeting with my guidance counselor, I decided, you know what, you're right. I could do science. I wanted to do both math and science, but at that time, I think math was just a little bit easier for me. Still is, even though I like chemistry. And that was it. I mean, the whole time in college, I did school first as my priorities, wrestling, and that's it. That's all I had to worry about. All right, time to grow up. Last day of the school, college. Graduate. Find out I'm having a baby. Have to make a big boy decision here. Put wrestling on hold, continue wrestling, or do everything. Guess what? Did everything. Decided to do everything. Had to move down to Florida. Found a job. A couple jobs very quick. Teaching. Shout out to Liberty High School, Osceola High School, Avant-Garde, UI. Not the best experience, but the other two schools I always will value and appreciate my time at public schools. I love giving back to public schools. I worked at one private school for 1 year that the district asked me to open up. I was not very happy about it, but I knew they were asking the best. They were. You could ask any of my peers. Me and two other teachers were the absolute best from 2006 to 2010. Sorry, from 2010 to 2016. We were innovative. We spoke the language for people who can't speak math. And we got it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't hard to connect. It's not hard to go in to the room, the classroom, and observe, like, who's having a bad day, who's having a good day. How can I make this lesson easier, but yet still informative? That's what the key is. Talking and doing math for people who can't speak math. So I did that for about 6 years, like I said, to 2016. Jumped around two other schools. And 2016 was when I got signed to WWE. Got signed in July 2016. Florida, we start school in August. Now, before we go into the next topic, I just want to say last thing. That was a hard decision to leave teaching. I got teachers messaging me that I used to work with, asking me, oh, you miss teaching? Like, of course I do, but I love my job now, right? That's always been my dream job. So you should always pursue your dream. But I do miss teaching. That's why I wanted to use this as a way to teach, give back, help tutor. Plan on doing this at least once a week for anybody who needs help. Feel free to reach out, and I'll make you a video on your topic, and help you get to the next level. It's hard when people ask, or when you ask by your students, Mister, when are you ever going to use this in the real world? And I'll tell you straight up. I'm gonna tell y'all straight up. I would tell you the same thing I told my students back in the day. Probably never. I'm gonna be honest with you. Probably never. But you will be using it one time. And that one time will probably be the most important time of your life when you do decide to use it. It happens to be at the end of the year on a test that people wrote and expect you to know certain topics. So if you want to go on to the next stage of life in your life, do the work, learn the topics, and move on. But I'm here today to help you out because you have somebody who's been in the system, you have somebody who's worked in the system, you have somebody who's even written questions on the end of course exams that some of your students, maybe some of you, will be taking at the end of the year, that will determine maybe 30% of your grade or a percentage of your grade, or will determine whether you get into those certain classes next year or next semester. These are why and when you will be using these topics. Now, I use more math a lot, often, because I make my own gear. So I have to use numbers, I have to use geometry to get what I want. But does that mean I'm using calculus every day? No. But I can. I don't need to though. Alright? I don't know. To me, school or education has become too much of a business rather than an institution for inspiration. And I like I said, I was a teacher. And I was on the other side of that, writing questions for those EOCs, the end of course exams. And there was times, man, where I lost a lot of passion, especially at the private school. But there's always at least one student in that classroom that just depends on you. Or maybe has a really crappy home situation and depends on coming to this class. Maybe you're the favorite teacher. Maybe you're not the favorite teacher, but you don't provide any stress for them. I don't know. But my classroom was very self-governed. It was the democracy. It wasn't a dictatorship where I'm the teacher. Yeah, I'm the teacher. But guess what? I do more than just teach math. Life. I did no homework. I lied. Let me re-say that. I did do homework, but I didn't grade it. We had homework weekly. I did not grade it. But every Friday, like routine, my students would know it'd either be a quiz or a test. Announced. They would know it. Announced every Friday. They would know it. Open book. Open notebook. Why? Because the real world, if you don't know something, what you gonna do? You're gonna Google it. I'm teaching life skills here. So that's what it was. And if they realized it, and they did, most did, the homework questions were the exact same questions on the test and quizzes. Maybe the numbers were different, but the words were the exact same. So if you did your homework, which we went over the next day, you should have been good in my class. Now, I gave you a safety net. Let's say you did bad. Maybe you got 5 questions right out of 7. You want to be an overachiever. Not an overachiever. You want to be the best you. Every Wednesday, I allowed students to come after school to retake any exam, the same exam, until they got 100, because I believe in mastery. You could be like, oh man, mister, they're gonna just put the answers down again. No. A lot of my tests were different. They weren't just tell me the answer. Some of my test questions had thinking process. For example, maybe I would do the entire problem for them, step by step, and just highlight or erase 3 lines. Boom, 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 boom. All right, show me how to finish this. Show me how to finish this. Go ahead. You know, and kids would have to insert lines, like actual lines. So like, how did he get from this line to that line? And the key is, I'm asking all my educating friends, all my educators out there, stop asking, are there any questions? Yes, you over there. Can I go to the bathroom? That's not what we're talking about. That's why you got to be specific. Are there any questions how we remove the variable from one side to the next? Very specific questions. Are there any questions on why I flipped this fraction for division? Very specific questions. Then you got the students who don't ask questions. Okay? Put a little question box, suggestion box. Boom, I'll answer in the warm-up tomorrow if you're too shy. I'm not gonna ask you. Put it over there. Or write it. Yo, give it to me. I'll read it. There's a compromise for everything, guys. There's a compromise for everything. I don't have my regular chair with me. Princey's sitting over here on mine. If y'all know me from my Twitch stream, y'all know Princey's my cat. He's looking at me chilling on the big boy chair. But I think it's time, guys, to answer some questions. I saw some matricy questions. I know I got some questions on the board I'll switch back to in a second. And real quick. Maybe I don't want to say that. I don't want to like think about it. All right, where we at? The statistics was my best. Yeet. You were nuts, man. Demario Miller says no grades, homework, open book quizzes. I bet your kids loved you. It was hit or miss, 50-50. I was stern. I was stern, but not mean, if that makes any sense. Sometimes though, you would have kids yell at you, and you obviously could not yell back as much as you want. So you have to develop this face, the just bouncing off me face. That's what I like to call it. Bouncing off me. All right. I know I had a question for my dude. Let me check it real quick. Woo! All right. So, I said I was checking something, but somebody asked me another question. I had to text it back. All right, let me double check that I didn't get any new ones. And like I said, I'm going to try to do this once a week. Math tutoring for anybody who needs math or science. I'll try to help you out as much with science as possible. But I know I had a couple questions that one of my friends had asked, Alejandro, about perpendicular lines. I'm gonna make sure I answer him. Let me double check that nobody else emailed me anything else. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, all right, good. So yeah, so like I said, probably won't be too long, but we'll be doing it once a week, and I'm only going to do it on YouTube because more students have YouTube, more access to it. It's a little bit easier. Plus, I did not want to do anything on Twitch that requires like physical transactions through money. I wanted all the students to use their money responsibly, first of all, and toward their education. Put it toward whether it's your student loan or getting new materials. Do whatever you got to do. But like I said, this is going to be a place where I can help out. Oh, oh snap. All right, let me move this. All right, we're still good. Can we get a sound check? Let's get a little sound check. Chester, awesome. Yeah, let him know. Anything, doesn't matter what grade, we'll help him out. We'll get it going. Yes. Cool, Victor, thank you. I'm listening, baby.
And for some reason, there was this kid with no mom, and she's just out there. She's looking, and she doesn't know where she is. And she has a lot of bags. She's next door. My dad said he'll be here in a couple minutes, but he'll be back.
your business, guys. Alright, real quick, I do gotta handle something. I'll be right back. Whoa, crazy. Yo. What a crazy experience. What the heck? Yo, before I go back, I just had to tell everybody what just happened real quick. First of all, I want to say my boy Chase did exactly what he needed to do. He saw somebody in trouble, aka danger, and he came right to me and said, yo, I got this. All right. He knew exactly what to do. That's my little boy. I thought he was joking when he said there's a little girl outside, no more than 4 years old, 2 bags, pacifier, walking around the neighborhood, no shoes. I'm like, what? No way. Let me check. Y'all saw how fast I left. There was. And luckily me and this other woman, very nice lady, I met her, knew the house that they lived in, but I finally met her and her husband, came to help, and we were so dumbstruck. Like, I could not believe what I'm seeing. 2020. It's nuts. What made it crazier, I go, hey, so I'll take her home. Let's try to find her house. I asked the color. She told me the color. I said, show me the, can you point to it? Boom, points to it. All right, cool, let's go. And as soon as we go, there's another guy that just pulls up in a car and just says, hey. And I go, hey, does this little girl live here? And he goes, yeah. And then walks in the house. Doesn't even take the girl. I mean, the girl, like, tries to get out and because I'm holding her, right? And she wiggles out and then runs inside and then the door closes. I'm like, okay, time out. We can't. No. Let me ring the doorbell. And me and this other gentleman, the wife had to leave. Me and this other gentleman were there waiting. We want answers. We want to make sure the girl's okay. We don't want answers. We want to make sure the girl's okay. That's our main concern. And no one ever answers. So I had to call the cops. Making sure that little girl was okay. So I hope she's okay. All right. Let me get my first one. I got a topic here. This topic is for... So annoying. How's the sound check, guys? Can we do a little sound check? Everybody good? Okay, you guys can see this board. Great. Chase. Yeah, well, I dropped it.
I didn't drop
Let me
it.
see the name of this gentleman who requested this particular topic be covered. Alejandro Velez. If you in the chat, this is for you. Alejandro asked if we can go over quickly. He is drawing lines. In particular, he's drawing some perpendicular lines. When given a point that's already drawn on a line. This is a very tough, and then Victor's in here too. This is a very common topic that a lot of students will listen to, this would be a very common topic a lot of students will be tested on at the end of the year if they're taking algebra, geometry, or even algebra 2. So if you know anybody who is taking algebra, geometry, or algebra 2, in particularly learning about perpendicular lines, parallel lines, writing equations of lines, this is the video you want to show them and help them out. So I'm going to actually answer, number 6, 7, and 8. Where 6 says use the Cartesian plane on the right to draw 2 perpendicular lines. Now, if you don't know what a Cartesian plane is, it's a fancy way of saying the graph. It's a fancy way of saying the graph. So use the graph on the right to draw 2 perpendicular lines. That's it. We're going to speak not math, okay? But I do say it is important to know the vocab because I feel like a lot of my students failed the test because they did not understand the vocab going in. So we did a lot of vocab recaps throughout the week. And then this one also says calculate the slope of each one. And when it says use the slopes to prove that the lines you drew are perpendicular. So you got to know a couple things here. You got to know what perpendicular lines look like, both algebraically and geometrically. When I say geometrically, I just mean by picture, okay? Now we can't assume that if I have two lines here, let me draw my graph. Okay, we know that we have two axes or two lines that make this graph. There's an X and a Y. Let me just draw some lines here real quick. All right, on my graph, my Cartesian plane, I got three lines. I got a red line, a blue line, and a green line. And if you notice at the end of the lines, they're little labeled L1, L2, L3. That just says line 1, line 2, line 3. That's it. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you that the blue line, line 1, and the green line, line 2, are parallel. Parallel lines do not cross. All right. Now, I know these are parallel because they're going to also have the same slope. So, parallel lines. Same slope. Okay. So, geometrically, when I'm looking at this, I know that the blue line and the green line, line 1 and line 2, are parallel because one, they don't intersect. So that's how we confirm geometrically that two lines are parallel when they don't intersect. Now, we also use the slopes algebraically to prove that these lines are the same. Now, these lines will have the same slope. Algebraically, that might look like this. Let's just say that this green line's equation is going to be y equals, now we're doing this in slope intercept form, y equals, this is somewhere in the negative, let's say negative 10x, oh sorry, I lied, because we're going positive, this is going to be a positive slope. Let's say 3x minus 10. This minus 10 just says that this green line crosses my y-axis at the number negative 10. Remember, these are number lines, okay? And this blue line may have an equation like this. Y equals, let's say 3x minus 5. Now you'll say, oh, hey, those lines are not the same because they look different. Well, the only thing that's different is where they cross the y-axis. Yes, they are different lines, but you notice that they actually have the same slope. The slope is in front of the x variable, and you see that it is 3. Okay? What that 3 means is to get from one point to the other, you need to go up 3 over 1. Which way? You go right because it's a positive slope. All right? If it was negative, that would mean you go down 3 over 1, or whatever the case would be. All right? Now, remember, parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines do not have the same slope. In fact, line 1 and line 3, the blue and the red line, do not have the same slope. Meaning, I can't use that same pattern, that same form to go from one point to the other. I can't go up 3 over 1 to get from one point to the other. I can't go up 3 over 1 to get to the next point. Okay, up 3 over 1. I can't do that here. One, because I noticed from left to right, the line is actually going down, so it's gonna have a negative slope. Already, my slopes are different. Because the slopes for line 1 and 2 are positive, but the slope for line 3 is negative. Let's just say it's y equals. All right? Now, instead of going down 3 over 1, we're gonna flip it. We're gonna go down 1 over 3. So that's gonna look like this. And we're crossing somewhere at the -1 number line. Okay, let me write it here. So you're gonna see it, y equals -1. Our slopes are all different. One's positive, one's negative. They look the same because they both got 3's in them, but the difference is parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines their slopes are actually the opposite reciprocal. All that means, that's a fancy way of saying, take the fraction or take your number, change the sign, opposite, and then flip it. Reciprocal just means flip, okay? If you see this word, reciprocal, it's a fancy math word just to say flip it. Change the sign and flip the damn thing. That's it, okay? Notice the slopes for line 1 and line 2 are all 3. Line 1 and 2. Okay, I'm not going to say plus because I don't want to confuse people. I'm going to say and. Line. The slope, which you'll see in math, they use the letter M for slope. I still don't know why. Okay? But this is the number or the fraction that's going to help us get from one point to the other. We notice that the line 1 and 2, the slopes are 3. Notice it's positive. Okay? You're like, oh, it's not a fraction. It's still a fraction because 3 is the same as 3 over 1. Go up 3 to the right 1. Okay? There's our fraction for those of you who don't understand when I say flip or take the reciprocal. Okay? Now we made it easier for us to find a perpendicular line, to find the slope of that perpendicular line. Because now, you notice, if I switch this, you see it's positive. If I change it to the opposite, it becomes negative. And if I flip it, it becomes 1 over 3, which is the slope of our perpendicular line. Why? Because the slopes from line 1 and 2 compared to line 3 happens to be the opposite reciprocal. Happens to be the opposite sign, flipped fraction. So when you're asked, use a Cartesian plane on the right to draw 2 perpendicular lines, first of all, start off by drawing 2 lines or 2 points. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this, and we're going to actually do number 6 together. All right? Remembering all of this, remembering what parallel line slopes look like, remembering what perpendicular lines slopes look like. All right? If you guys can remember that visually and algebraically, you should be good to understand these particular topics on whatever test you're talking about. So let me go ahead and erase. We'll go ahead and set up a little number 6 for my boy Alejandro. We'll start over here. All right. Don't be intimidated by the graph. Don't be intimidated by the graph, guys. These are just number lines. There's a horizontal number line and a vertical number line. Okay? Think of this as battleships, placements. Okay? This is a battleship map. Everything has a coordinate. All right? Just remember, your coordinates always go X, Y first. your horizontal point, your vertical point, okay? So this will be number 6 for my boy Victor. This will be number 6 for my boy Alejandro. If you guys want a copy of this, I could provide it for y'all, but you don't really need to. So what we're doing right here is we're attempting to draw on our graph 2 perpendicular lines. You could do this any way you want. I'm going to show you my way because it happens to be what I think is the easy way, which on tests, we're always looking for the easy way. We're looking for the fastest way to complete the test or question correctly. Those of you who don't know, you need 2 points to make a line. You don't need 3. 2 points make one specific line. Your teacher might ask you to make 3 points. Your teacher might ask you create a table. Okay? Do whatever you need to do to get 2 points. I'm gonna say my points are gonna be one right there. Happens to be 2, 1. I'll even write it here. 2, 1. My X, my number on my X number line or X axis goes first, which is 2, right? Go over 2. And we went up 1, which is where that 1 came from, right? Now, like I said, I need 2 points. So I already got 1. I'm going to make any 2 points because number 6 tells us draw 2 lines. I'm sorry, it says, yeah, draw 2 perpendicular lines. It doesn't say where, it doesn't say how, it just says draw 2 perpendicular lines. Cool. All right, I'm going to go, let's say 3, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4. Right? Went to the right 3. This is 0. 0 starts here. Went to the right 3 and went up 4 to get to this line. These 2 points are going to make my first line. Let's go ahead and create our first line. We're going to call this one line 1. All right. Now, for my line to be perpendicular, it's probably going to be easier if I find the slope of this one first. How do I do that? I could count, right? Visually, I could count. Now, when you're doing this type of problem, make sure that if you are given a graph, make it easier for yourself. Put those points on the cross sections of those lines to make those numbers easier. It's a lot easier to deal with numbers that are whole than it is decimals, all right? So I'm gonna actually use that technique. I'm gonna see what the slope is, my rise over my run, how far I need to go up and down before I need to go left and right to get from this point to this point. I could use this point to that point, but guess what? It really doesn't matter. You're gonna get the same answer after simplifying. For me personally, left to right works the best. It's always been how I've been programmed, but do whatever helps you out. Also too, if you notice, from left to right, this graph is going up, okay? So I'm looking for a positive slope. If my slope becomes negative, then I'm doing it wrong, all right? So to get from this point to this point, it looks like I go up 1, 2, 3, and then over 1. So it looks like I went up 3 blocks, or 3 units, okay? And it looks like I went over 1 unit. So that means my slope for this line is going to be 3 over 1, or just 3. Slope 1, line 1. There's our slope. Now, we know what the slope of a line perpendicular to this is because we already did an example where we had one of the slopes to be 3, okay? Let's say that we didn't know that. What will we do? Check it out. To find the slope to a perpendicular line to this blue one, meaning slope number 2, what we're going to do is we're going to take this one. We're going to use the fraction because it's a little bit easier to understand the fraction. We're going to take this 3 over 1 and we're going to make it negative. So this is what it's going to look like. Notice I'm not putting equals, I'm putting a little arrow because I'll put the equals on the last one. Okay, I'm going to take this 3/1 and make it the opposite. Turn it negative. Let me put it maybe a different color to show what we did. Okay, we made it negative. Because that was our first thing. When we have perpendicular lines, the slopes are the opposite reciprocal. Well, if this one is positive, this one has to be negative. And the last thing I do is I take the reciprocal, or just flip it. Boom. Okay? Flip the whole thing. Don't flip the sign, just flip the fraction. And that's going to look like this. Now, here's my equals. The negative stays the same, because I said do not change the sign. Keep it. The only thing you're flipping is the fraction itself. So instead of 3/1, it's going to become 1/3. Check out my new slope. I don't need to plug this number in to any equation to draw my next line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this new slope, slope 2, and I'm going to pick any starting point here. Now I already got 2 points here. This probably be best if I picked one of them, made it easier for myself. And I would use one of these points. Let's use 2/1. And we're going to use the slope -1/3. We're going to go down 1 since it's negative, but we're going to still go to the right 3 because you can't have two negative numbers. Only one of the numbers have to be negative in your slope. So we're going to go down 1 to the right 3. Let's see what that looks like. From 2, 1, we're going to go down 1. That actually puts us back on the x-axis. And we're going to go to the right 3. 1, 2, 3. Three, 0. Oh, not 3. What am I saying? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. Which makes sense because if you look here, the number is 2 on my x. And if we went to the right 3, it should put us at 5. And over here, if we start here and we go down 1, well, if I'm at 1 higher and I go down 1, it should put us back on the number line, which it does. All right? And you're like, oh, well, you need 2 points to make a line. Hey, we already got 2 points. One of them just happened to be on this same line. It's okay. You can recycle points because points that share, or lines that share points, that's where we determine whether it's perpendicular or parallel. Now check it. All I got to do now to answer number 6 is I'm going to draw a line going through these 2 points. Somewhere's over here. Probably not the best, but boom. This is what number 6, your answer to number 6 should look like if you choose to use the points I have here. And I know it's parallel because 1, my slopes match the characteristics to be parallel. And 2, where they intersect, there's actually a 90-degree angle here. Parallel lines create 90-degree angles. For those of you who do not know that or have not taken that geometry lesson yet. Okay. So to answer number 6, draw 2 lines that are perpendicular. This is how I would do it. Not a lot of math, just common sense. Okay. If you understand the word slope and how to use it geometrically and algebraically, you can answer almost any question when it comes to lines, whether it's in algebra or geometry. It's funny because number 7 asked to calculate the slopes. I felt like you had to calculate the slopes of at least one of them to, basically get to your answer. I felt like you couldn't do number 6 until you find slopes first, but I guess it is what it is. They should have worded it. Draw 1 line, find the slope. Then they should have said, find a line perpendicular to the line you found. And then we can answer the last question, which says, use the slopes to prove that the lines you drew are perpendicular. Well, we already spoke about knowing what makes slopes perpendicular versus what makes slopes parallel. perpendicular slopes are the opposite reciprocal. They're the opposite signs and the flipped version of each other. Parallel lines have the same slope. So if I were going to draw a line parallel to the blue, okay, I'm looking at a line that also has another slope of 3. All right. Alejandro, I hope that helped you. I could have answered 1 through 5, but I felt like if we answered 6, 7, and 8, we were good. I also had some other formulas that we could have used, slope intercept form, point slope form. But this kind of question, you can kind of use just your knowledge of slopes and the characteristics to answer this particular question. And I hope it was helpful for you as well. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Let me see if I had anything else that somebody wanted to get. Let's see, man. I think that's it. I know I'm gonna do a video. Actually, you know what? I know I'm gonna do a video for people and students who've been struggling with fractions. Let me get this. Yeah, so we'll do a video another time for people who need help with fractions and stuff like that. But I wanted to get that video out for my boy Alejandro. Hopefully that helped him out a little bit. And, you know, he got a chance to check it out. I know I have my boy Victor also in school. But if you have anybody else, guys, in the next few days, I'll do this leading up to Thanksgiving and even after Thanksgiving. Just tutoring on a weekly basis. Message me. I'll make a video. You guys could join me live. But I'll edit it as well for later use. I was a teacher. Yes, I was for 6 years. Shaq, ¿cómo está? ¿Todo bien? Geometry, anything you guys need topics on, just make sure you message me. Hit a cat up and I'll get it going. All right, but I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get it going. We bid about an hour and a half. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to do too much. But thank you guys for joining me. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I love doing like teaching stuff. So anything I could do to help improve this, please let me know. I already think I want to do something different with the board and the background. I already got the idea in my mind. But other than that, guys, stay safe out there, all right? Spread some love. I'm gonna try to figure out this baby situation that I did outside and go from there. One love, man.